Hi, and welcome back to Cut Loose. If you're new to the channel, my name's Martin, and here we're going to try and tell some of our tales and adventures of life after work. So it's been 3 weeks now since I retired. How's it gone? Well, first of all, I think I'd like to thank the 80 or so people that turned up to the sort of leaving party, and also thank the National Trust for organising it, and the catering team at Wick and Fen for laying on such fantastic food, lots to drink, and particularly those people that bake cakes. There was lots of cake, a lot of cake. The event itself was, I suppose, leading up to it was a little bit daunting, and certainly on the day it was quite overwhelming. There were all these people sort of turning up to celebrate sort of little old me. I don't hide my light under a bushel, but neither do I like to be that much the centre of attention. But never mind, it went well, and there were lots and lots of very kind words and best wishes from a lot of very generous people. And well, that was topped off by several pints in the local pub a little bit later.
There was a countryside manager called Martin who from Wick and Fen was departing. We all had to bake, and he ate all the cake and spent the afternoon
And then the following day, a group of us, friends and some of my family, had come down, and we had a day out at the races, and then piled back to the cottage here, where we had a bit of a barbecue and a few more beers, and a good time was had by all, including the kids, which was really great fun. So what about retirement? How has it been? Well, my first day after retirement was a sort of pre-arranged work thing. Yeah, I don't know, I'm supposed to be retired. This is something, it was a regular thing that I do with BBC Radio. And as I'm going to be moving away, I thought that it probably best that I handed over to somebody else to do Wildlife Wednesday. So I did that. But then on the Thursday, Eve was going to be travelling home. She'd been here for a week. We'd had a lovely time. It was really great. But when I woke up on Thursday morning, I was faced with being on my own again, which, all right, I don't actually mind too much being on my own. I quite enjoy my own company. But it was lovely having Eve around. And B, I hadn't got to go to work. There was no sort of structure anymore. And it just felt a little bit peculiar. Even I talked it over, and she said, just make a list of things you got to do. And I have got lots to do. So I made a list. It was quite an extensive list, but it got shorter and shorter with surprising ease. And I think that's because I was treating the whole thing as if I was on holiday, subconsciously treating it as if I was on holiday. So, for instance, you know this sort of thing, or let's get this done, and then we can chill out. And that's what I was doing. But there was no need to chill out. I wasn't going back to work. There was almost no tomorrow. This was just it now. And I found myself after 4 or 5 days, I'd slowed right down. I was taking more time to myself, instead of getting my head down and getting stuck in, which had been my sort of modus operandi for goodness knows how many years. I'd simply found myself, well, fancy a cup of tea, let's have a cup of tea. And we'll have a sit in the garden, when it wasn't stinking hot, of course, but yeah, we'll have a sit in the garden. So all of a sudden, really quite quickly, things changed. It became less frantic. So I was sort of left thinking to myself, surely retirement can't be this easy, can it? It can't be this straightforward, but maybe it can. On a slightly different tack, I've been trying to manage the potential stress leaving work, selling your house, moving home are all some of the most stressful things that apparently you can do in life, and I was doing them all at once. So I've been trying to keep things as even as possible. And I have to say, I've been quite successful by limiting myself to only dealing with sort of one thing at a time. And I know there's multiple things, and I've got to get my ducks in a row, but trying to do them one at a time rather than as I would normally do is sort of meld them all together. So trying to limit myself to one thing at a time, and I've managed to keep things, as I say, nice and even. Obviously, the house move has been the sort of priority, and packing, not surprisingly, and then storage and transport being the number ones in those. Now there's three, but I managed to separate them out. Anything else was put on the sort of back seat or back shelf or back burner, put on the back burner. So now 3 weeks on, the house is just about packed up. Now, I have to show some packing, but I do promise you, this is all there is. There is no more. It's far too boring to show on here. There are a few little odds and sods, sort of little nooks and crannies where I've stored stuff and then forgotten about it, and I'm sort of hoovering all those up, not literally, figuratively, of course. There are a few more mainstream parts of the house which do need to be attended to, but I'm still going to need to use those as functioning parts of a home before I can actually clear them out. But apart from that, I've now booked storage for a month's time. I've got a large van booked to transport all of my stuff to wherever the storage is, and I've also managed to rope in people to help load and unload things at either end. I've even secured a temporary home for the MG. As yet, I don't know what property I should be buying, ergo I don't know whether it'll have a garage. But I do have a classic car in the garage here, and I'd rather that didn't sit out on the street. So I've managed to find some secure sort of temporary accommodation for the MG. So check me out. Not a stress line in place, well, not a new one anyway. But what next? Well, as I say, I've got to finish off doing the dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I've still got a few screw holes to fill in the walls where various fixed bits of furniture have gone away. So an old cabinet that used to belong to my grandmother, I've taken down. The Welsh dresser in the kitchen, I'm going to pass on to Eve. So there's screw holes in the walls where they once were fixed, and then obviously those holes have got to be painted once they're repaired. And then hopefully I don't post this too soon, because I'm on Thursday, in 2-3 days time, I'm planning to drive down to Eve's home in Wiltshire. She doesn't know it yet, but because I've now effectively packed up my house and I've got 2 or 3 weeks before the next instalment of whatever's going to be happening, I thought there's no point in me sitting here doing nothing, twiddling my thumbs in an echoing shell of a house. I might as well go down and see Eve, maybe take a few bits and bobs that are going to be going down there with me eventually anyway, and go down there and surprise her. And hopefully it will be a surprise. Slightly tricky thing is, she's house sitting for a friend this week, and I don't know where that is. I do know that twice a day she visits her horse at the stables, so my first plan of attack is going to be to drive down there, park up sort of in the afternoon at the stable yard, and hope she turns up and hasn't paid somebody else to do the stabling for her that day, and surprise her that way. If all else fails, I just have to phone her and say, come and help me, because I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere and I don't know where you are. But hopefully that'll be a lot of fun, and that'll surprise her, be a nice surprise. and then I'll stay down there for, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks, and then I've got to come back. As I say, I've got my car to MOT. We've got a family event towards the end of August. My mum and dad want to get all the family together, all the grandchildren, great-grandchildren and whatnot. So we've got that to look forward to. And then I shall come back here with a bit of a vengeance, get things all ready, get the final things all put away and ready to get the van, get it loaded and get everything taken and put into storage. So that's what's coming up. Everything is, I'm sorry, there's a mouse just running along the top of the fence at the end of the garden, distracting me a little bit. Everything is going to plan a lot better than I thought it would. I'd sort of prepared myself for getting quite, not stressed, but getting quite sort of anxious and fractious about what was going on. You know, inevitably things don't go to plan entirely. And I've been trying to manage everything just to make sure that those things don't get on top of me. And so far, as I said, I think I've been quite successful, quite proud of myself, in fact. So that's all going. This instalment is only a short one. I had realised that whilst I'd done a few vlogs about this business of retirement and what led up to it, and I'd published 2 or 3 vlogs so far anyway on my Wick and Fen playlist, which hopefully people are enjoying, but I hadn't actually done anything about retirement, and I'm like three weeks into retirement, and there'd been nothing about retirement at all. So this is just a short one. It's one just to let everybody know, for those that are interested anyway, how those first few weeks have gone. They've gone really well. There's a lot more to come, but yeah, it's good. Things are good. So if this has been helpful, I wouldn't say enjoyable, but if it's been helpful and encourages other people to maybe take those first few steps, then subscribe and see what comes next. If you want to know what's coming next, then ding the old bell for notifications, and if it has been useful, give us a bit of a thumbs up. Okay? Cheers then, see you next time.